Greetings, students. Today we are going to look at a lesson on saying please by A.G. Gardiner. So, A.G. Gardiner is into comedy, into making fun of political and religious figures. So, he gives his essay on saying please, um, a reflection upon the importance of manners, good manners in society. So I will read through the text and explain as we go on. So this will be a very surface level dealing with the text. So let us begin with the text, which opens up with a interesting incident that happens. He begins with a little anecdote of what he heard, what happened in the maybe he heard it in the news, and then reflects upon it. So the young lift man in the city office who threw a passenger out of his lift the other morning and was fined for the offense was undoubtedly in the wrong. It was a question of please. The complainant, entering the lift, said, "Top." The liftman demanded, "Top, please." And this concession being refused, he not only declined to comply with the instruction, but hurled the passenger off to the lift. This, of course, was carrying a comment on manners too far. So, in this first beginning paragraph, we see him describing a small incident that happened. So basically, there was a liftman. You see those people who stand in the lifts, and even in malls, you see even now in huge malls, there is a person who actually asks you which floor you want to go and presses the button for you, right? So we are talking about that liftman here. And one person, I think he was in a hurry and he entered and he said top floor, okay, but he did not add please to it. As you know, this needs a little bit of cultural explanation. So um, even when you're talking to all sorts of working class people and everyday people who actually work, like workmen, liftmen, and any sort of valet, any of these people, you are supposed to talk with a great deal of respect with him and or her, and say please in English society. And this is what we are seeing here. So this person was perceived as being very rude by this liftman, and he took it as an offense that he did not say please, and he just commanded by saying top, okay, top floor, or like it was more of a command to them. So this keeps happening in India a lot, but this was taken as something of an offense by this liftman. And his reaction is something which is very extreme, and our author actually comments that it is very extreme. He basically throws that guy out of the lift. He doesn't even say anything, and he demands for a please, and he doesn't respond, and he throws this rude person out. And our author is commenting that that is taking it too far. Okay, of course there are ill-mannered people, but they don't deserve to be thrown out just because they don't say please. So he begins with such a comment and this small story, and look at what he says next. Discourtesy is not a legal offense, and it does not excuse assault and battery. If a burglar breaks into my house and I knock him down, the law will acquit me. And if I am physically assaulted, it will permit me to retaliate with reasonable violence. It does this because the burglar and my assailant have broken quite definite commands of the law. But no legal system could attempt to legislate against bad manners or could sanction the use of violence against something which it does not itself recognize as legally punishable offense. And whether our sympathy with the liftman, whatever our sympathy with the liftman, we must admit that the law is reasonable and it would never do if we were at liberty to box people's ears because we did not like their behavior, or the tone of their voices, or the scowl of their faces. Our fists would never be idle, and the gutters of the city would run with blood all day. So his basic point in this paragraph is to say that violence is not the solution here, and there is no legal rule or law against this. This is something of a cultural and a social thing that is important, but we can't prosecute people based on bad manners, or we can't like enforce it other things are enforced. Like, we can't see it as a crime, and it is. And he says that the law is reasonable for doing so. And he comments upon how we can't just beat people up because they spoke with us in the wrong tone, or did anything with their facial expression to offend us. It is rude. It is something which is very important and um, hmm, very damaging to the self-respect of that person. For example, this lift man. But violence or legal action is not to be recommended. So let us move on. But he says after this, I may be as uncivilized as I may please, and the law will protect me against violent retaliation. I may be haughty or boorish, and there is no penalty to pay except the penalty of being written down as a ill-mannered fellow. So basically, there won't be any consequences for such kind of ill-mannered behavior, except maybe where you work and all. Like, you all of you have heard of this bona fide certificate, right? So it's similar to that. You can be in workplaces written down as someone who has like a problem with their anger, or a problem with their behavior, or get that kind of a wrong sort of recommendation, basically, right? Or a comment upon your career. But more than that, uh, nothing much happens. There is no legal action taken against you, or you can go ahead and be ill-mannered. You don't need good manners to uh, you know be like a uh, functioning person in a society, right? Okay, so the the law does not compel me to say please, or attune my voice to other people's sensibility, any more than it says that I shan't wax my mustache, or dye my hair, or wear ringlets down my back. It does not recognize the laceration of our feelings as a case for compensation. There is no allowance for moral or intellectual damages in these matters. So the law does not really protect these things, though it hurts people's feelings, though it is seen as something as a bad socially, but all of these are comparable to the kind of hairstyle that you have, or the kind of choices that you have when it comes to dressing. It's personal, basically. It's a very personal thing and a social thing, and not like a legal problem, is what he's pointing out. Okay, so this was written quite a while back. Okay, so we have to remember that in the present age, like especially in the West, you see uh, uh, this changing a little bit. What he calls as reasonable and all. Sometimes you see people, just because they address other people in a certain way, or so everything. You see that see this in the news, actually, right? So even use the wrong pronoun, or do anything wrong, it's in speech, in how you behave. uh, it is a different reality, so we have to consider the context of what we are dealing with here with this text. So this does not mean that damages are negligible. That means that doesn't give you the right to say that, okay, it doesn't damage anyone, though it is legal for you to do this, for you to have no manners and treat people as you like. Okay, that does not mean it doesn't do any damage. It does a lot of damage. So it is probable that the liftman was much more acutely hurt by what he regarded as a slur upon his social standing than he would have been if he had had a kick on the shins, for which he could have gotten legal redress. The pain of a kick in the shins soon passes away, but the pain of a wound on our self-respect or our vanity may poison a whole day. I can imagine that liftman denied the relief of throwing the author of his wound out of the lift, brooding over the insult by the hour, and visiting it on his wife in the evening as the only way of restoring his equilibrium. So basically, he points out to the pain that this person undergoes. So the um, the comment, okay, without a please, just like this order of top, okay, top floor or something like that, shouted out in a rude fashion, was perceived by this liftman as something which is a comment upon his social standing, that he has like he doesn't even he's not even on the level of a person who requires a please. Basically, it um, doesn't deserve enough respect for a please to be included in there. So that is how he takes it. And the author recognizes that this kind of insult upon a person's identity, upon a person's individual sort of self-esteem, is very damaging. It can actually spoil the whole day. If we have this kind of interactions with even strangers, and the way they treat us is very rude, uh, based on your social standing or anything like that, any of the other things, it actually has a damage upon yourself, your personality as a person. And the author is actually thinking maybe he went back to his wife and then shouted at her to get it out of him, and gain some sort of equilibrium or some sort of balance in his mental state. So this kind of thing actually spreads. This kind of bad sort of behavior, in a way, it goes from person to person, and it has a damaging effect, though it is legal. Okay, though there is no like legal injunction against it, right? Um, so basically, let us see how he actually develops this idea of it spreading and spoiling society on the whole. So there are a few things more. There are a few things more catching than a bad temper and bad manners. When Sir Anthony Absolute bullied Captain Absolute, the latter went out and bullied his man Fag. Whereupon Fag went downstairs and kicked the page boy. Probably the man who said top to the liftman was really only getting back on his employer, who had not said good morning to him because he himself had been henpecked at the breakfast table by his wife, to whom the cook had been insolent, because the housemaid had answered her back. We infect the world with our ill humors. So basically, he is describing a scene from a play, a popular play, and how it actually spreads from person to person. And he describes how the maid is rude to the cook, and the cook is rude to the wife, and the wife is rude to the husband, and it spreads from person to person like this, and the whole day is ruined for all these people because they are rude and do not take the time to actually be good mannered, or like be polite basically to each other. So if the maid had taken the or anyone in the middle had taken the effort to be polite in their interaction with the other person, um, then all of this chain of reactions and and this infection, for example, like there are viruses spreading right from one person to the other, like disease. He compares it to that how bad manners can actually spoil a whole society, and it just can go from place to place and ruin everything. So that is what he's talking about here. Then bad manners probably do more to poison the stream of gender life than all the crimes in the calendar. For one wife gets a black eye from the otherwise good natured husband, there are 100 who live a life of martyrdom under the shadow of a morose temper. But all the same, the law cannot become the guardian of our private matters. No decalogue. Decalogue here is referring to the Ten Commandments, if you are aware of that, can cover the vast area of offenses, and no court could administer a law which governed our social civilities, our speech, the tilt of our eyebrows, and all of our moods and manners. So basically, this is not a legal issue, is what he's saying. There is no like 10 commandments telling you, there are no like explicit rules telling you how to behave with other people, how to actually um, uh, be polite and try to uh, take that extra effort to be nice to people. And he gives the example of an otherwise good husband, because his mood was bad, he actually resorts to physical violence against his wife and all. So this is another thing where we have to think about the time when these were considered like private matters, and it was not considered as a you know thing which was a legal problem, basically. Okay, a woman getting a black eye from her husband, right? So then you have there are and he goes on to say that there are hundreds of women actually suffering from all of this. Because there is such kind of ill manners, basically. So even in family life, you need this sort of basic politeness and dealing with being sensitive to other people's feelings. That is what he's pointing to, and he explicitly says that this does not exist in some sort of 10 commandments, some sort of explicit rules. It is more of a social thing. It is more to do with the um, do with how we actually go by implicit rules in society. It's something that we know that it's a good thing to do, but we don't end up doing it. Okay, so we will continue in the next video.